Hi, my name is Maya from Book from Dreams and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in the second half of April, and I'm going to wrap up my entire Orilium Readathon thingy. In all of April I read 19 books, 19, of which there was 8 fantasy books, 1 science fiction books, 8 romance books, 1 literary fiction book, and 1 horror book. First I'm going to talk about the Orilium Magical Readathon. So in this Magical Readathon, created and hosted by G from the Book Roast, I will leave all the information down below. You basically were reading books for your calling and for your character. So my character still doesn't have a name. It's a dwarf from, I think, Canada, I believe. And she is going to school to become a scribe. In the first semester, I had to read 5 books, and I did. So, for elemental studies, I read A Dead Djinn in Cairo. I talked about this book in my first half of the month wrap-up, so I will leave the link to that down below so you can check it out. For Inscription, I read The Last Arguments of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. I was supposed to read the Court of Silver Flames, but I just, every time I look at that book, I just don't have an enormous desire to read it, and I don't know why. I know that when I start it, that I will finish it quickly and I will be interested and whatnot, but I just can't seem to start it. So I switched that book for The Last Argument of Kings. This is book 3 in the First Law trilogy. So in the First Law trilogy, we follow several characters that go that are involved in the various plots in this world. There's so many complicated things happening. This is a grim, dark fantasy, and it is grim, dark. I was very surprised at some points. I thought, I was like, I know how. I've read Game of Thrones. Like, I've read those years ago, and I thought, like, I could handle grim, dark. I mean, I can, but there were some things that shocked me, so that was an interesting point. So basically, we follow Gokta, who is an inquisitor. Basically, he's a torturer, and throughout this series, he basically goes from one not political trouble. He gets involved in political stuff because his boss is like a power-hungry maniac, and so he's like trying to survive, and also, but he's, you know, a torturer, so he goes around torturing people for information. We follow Logan Ninefingers. He is like a barbarian of the north, right? So he basically goes to the south. In the first book, basically, he is presumed dead by his fellow kinsmen, and so he's saved by this mage, this wizard dude, and so he follows him on this grand adventure. But throughout, he kind of goes back, throughout the trilogy, he goes back to the north and deals with all of his problems that he has. His biggest problem is that he's a berserker, that is that in the heat of battle, he loses control and kills people, whether they're, you know, friendly or not friendly, and that brings him a lot of trouble and a lot of, he spends a lot of the books just basically wondering whether he's a good dude or not, and it was a very interesting character to follow. And the third character we follow is, oh, I can't say his name. I know his surname is Lothar, or something like that. So basically, he is like, he's not a dandy. He is he's not royalty. He is highborn. At least he thinks he's highborn. Is he highborn? He is a wealthy young man who basically spends his time drinking and you know, thinking that he's better than everyone. He's not a very likable character, and in the first book he basically trains to participate in this tournament. Every year there's like a tournament to figure out who is that year's best swordsman, right? So because of that, he is sort of taken on a journey with our mage and Logan and other people to look for something. And as we follow those 3 characters, there are several plots happening. First of all, the main kingdom, of course, name escapes me right now, is basically attacked by 2 sides, from the north and from the south, and throughout the trilogy we sort of deal with that. I really enjoyed this last book. It was my favorite in the trilogy, and it is so good. I mean, there were some characters that just did stuff that was like, you root for them, and you want them to, you know, have a happy ending, but the end is so cynical, and it's also a bit open-ended, but yeah, it's completely, I don't know, I just really enjoyed this series. For Spells and Incantations, I read Tales from Long Ago. So basically, Priče iz davnine. So this is a collection of Fairy Tales by Ivana Borić-Mažuranić. So Ivana Borić-Mažuranić is lauded as the Croatian version of Hans Christian Andersen, and you can see that in her fairy tales because sort of similar to Brothers Grimm, they have some unexpectedly violent happenings in the book. I mean, we follow one character in one of the stories, which is basically he left his home to sort of find out the truth about what he's supposed to learn, right? And so in that finding, he basically falls down a well and dies. And I'm like, you're the main character, like you're the person, like his name is in the title of the fairy tale, and it was like so weird. Anyway, I enjoyed reading this, but this is not. So this was written in like old Croatian. That is, there are some words and phrases that are not really common right now. So thankfully there is a dictionary at the end of this edition. So the morals of these fairy tales are really up and center. You can't miss them. And in this edition, which was like a special edition because it has a foreword and an explanation of each of the fairy tales and like all the morals of them, like things you can do to talk to children about these fairy tales. Yeah, it has really wonderful illustrations. The illustrator is called, let me just tell you, Tomislav Tomic, and he did a wonderful job illustrating the creatures and you know, various characters and like sets and stuff. Let me show you one of the cool ones. So this is a cool one. You can see. For restoration, I read Izazov of Krvi, which I misplaced somewhere. Okay, here it is, by Vesna Kurilic. I talked about this in my previous wrap-up. This was a book in which we follow a widow who finds a half-dead man in the forest, and she kind of helps him recover, and she's also a werewolf. And for lore, I read Hammered by Kevin Hearn. This is book 3 in the Iron Druid series in which we follow Atticus, who is an Iron Druid who basically is reaping the consequences of his actions after invading Asgard. Also, in the second half of the month, I participated in Torcom Readathon. I do have a vlog for that, so you can check it out everywhere. So basically, for that readathon, the goal was to read books by Tor.com, and for that I read The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval. I read Where the Drowned Girls Go by Sean Maguire, The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Niveau, and A Master of Gin by P.J. Lee Clark. You can check out all my thoughts on those books in the vlog. Also, in the month of April, I participated in the Buzzword Reading Challenge. So this is a reading challenge created by oh my god, Kayla from Books and Lala. I blanked on the name for a second. And she basically gave a list of buzzwords, and I decided to, when participating in this challenge, I would read only science fiction book. And this is the only science fiction book I read this month, which was kind of weird. So I read, the reading challenge word was something, a size word, like big, small, and whatnot. And for that, I read Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Novelle. So basically, in this book, we follow several characters as they are trying to figure out why there are parts of a humongous thing on planet Earth. So I listened to it on audio, and the book is actually a collection of interviews, reports and such. And so basically, Rose, as a young girl, found a giant hand, like a hole in a giant hand. And as she grew up, she became a physicist and somehow became not director, but she was basically in charge of figuring out what the hell is happening with the hand. Are there other body parts made of this like metal thingy somewhere around Earth? And so we follow her as she leads the project. We follow Kara, who is a fighter pilot. She's basically tasked with flying around the Earth and trying to, they're using this like compound to, they like spread it around the planet so that they could find like this metal that the hand is made out of, so the other body part is made out of. So she does that throughout the book and basically finds the entire, like, it's not a robot, but it's like it is kind of an alien robot, all right? We also follow Vincent, who is a linguist. He basically has to decipher what the markings on the giant robot thing is. And we also follow this dude who nobody said his name, but basically he's the all-knowing person who is basically behind everything. He is like this, he's not source of the money, but he has access to a lot of things, and he is in control of the entire project of people working and everything else. This was a very interesting book. I enjoyed it a lot. It was very interesting, especially, Kara kind of gave me Kiva Lagos vibes from the Interdependency series. But also I like the anonymous character, because it definitely, he reminded me, there's a character in the Hail Mary project that basically is in charge of the Hail Mary project. And, their actions were very similar. So because both of them did very questionable things to make sure that the project survives, and they were very good at their job. The things they did were horrible, and they definitely helped project stay alive. I did really enjoy this book, and I'm going to continue with the series. I'm just a bit worried because Christina read this, the entire thing she read, and she said like the first one was the best one, and like the later ones kind of become progressively worse, with the third one being the worst one. So I'll see, but I'm definitely interested in continuing with this series. And now let's talk about romance and all the stuff that I read in the second half of April. Right, so I read Wicked Cravings by Suzanne Wright. This is book 2 in the Phoenix Pack series. Basically, this is a series in which it is a paranormal romance in which we follow werewolf shifters, werewolves, I guess, or wolf shifters, who, in this one pack, and basically as they get paired off, right? So in the second one, we follow Dante and Jamie, and basically their relationship starts also not antagonistic, because Jamie is interested in Dante, but Dante being like a beta of the pack, he's not really interested in a relationship, because he knows he won't be able to like give himself fully to this person, because he has to take care of the pack. So Jamie basically spent the entire the beginning, some part of the first book and whatnot, flirting with him all the time, but after he was like, I'm not interested, he stopped, and then of course she stopped, and that of course is when he became interested. But Jamie has like this past trauma which prevents her from shifting into her wolf. I mean, she can do it, but she is very afraid of losing control. So that she's worried that she will get stuck in this wolf form. So when Dante finds out about this, he's like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to control your wolf, and then from there sort of their attraction and like romantic relationship begins. Now, my problem with this one is it's very different from the first one, Feral Sins. In the Feral Sins, you had an interesting combination of two alphas being in a relationship and sort of, trying to dominate each other, and there was like this not contradiction of power, but it was more interesting to follow than this pair in the second one. And I wasn't really vibing with the dominance bullshit that was happening in this one. The first one, I don't know, I guess I was in a better mood, or it was done a bit better, I have no idea. But in this one, it was like rolling my eyes the entire time. Also, the plot was kind of predictable, and you knew who there wasn't a secret bad guy, but you knew that what the bad guy was going to do in like the third act of the story, and that was kind of like when that happened, I was like, okay, whatever, dude. But I read it. I think I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. The next book I read is The Beautiful and Dirty by Katrina Jackson. Now, I read this one because I saw a video that was announcing the Mafia Readathon that is happening soon, and I was like, I think I want to participate in this. And then I found about this series, The Family by Katrina Jackson, and I read the first one because it's like only 63 pages. Basically, in this one we follow Shay and Sal. So Shay basically is on a trip to Italy with her boyfriend, but her boyfriend is a complete asshole, and he's like very whiny and shit. So she basically not dumps him, but leaves him behind because he's very he is unorganized and childlike. He basically needs another mother, another girlfriend, and she discovers that while on a trip with him, and she basically just leaves him on the train station while she goes to visit, is it Napoli? I don't know, the town with the pizza. So basically she goes to this restaurant and meets Sal, who is also a mafia dude, and they spend a very interesting day together. And when she comes back to her boyfriend, he can sense that she's changed a bit, because she's like, he basically spent the entirety of their like time together telling her how beautiful and wonderful she is, and she's like, oh my god, like my boyfriend doesn't do stuff like that. And you know, she's like, okay, did they break up or not? By the end of it, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to read the sequel for the Mafia romance readathon that's happening. So I really enjoyed it. It was really a fun read. Then I read something called The Midwinter Mail Order Bride by Cathy Wilde. So basically, in this one we follow Anya and Kyle. So basically, Kyle is like the conqueror of this like medieval like land, and he is because he's just spent a lot of time conquering and whatnot. His advisors basically ordered him a bride. So when the bride comes and she's like, okay, that's great, but we have to go back. Because I have to save my kingdom from like this invisible spider thing. And he's like, well, she doesn't want to be with me, let's take her back. He's not like as cruel as people think he is. So on their way back, they have a wonderful adventure and they have a romance and everything. And it was really fun. It was a fun read. The thing was that the romance part would have happened much sooner if people just kind of talked about what they want, because there were just lots of assuming, and it just kind of ruined the whole, not ruined, but kind of made the read a bit frustrating. But it was a fun read, and I really enjoyed it. Then the last romance stuff that I've read basically is The Half-Orc's Maiden Bride by Ruby Dixon. Now, I don't even know how I got to that one. Oh yeah, no, I think one of the romance people that I follow did like a monster romance reading vlog, and there she mentioned this one. So it was like Ruby Dixon, I like Ruby Dixon, so I read this one. So in this story we follow Lady, I can't pronounce her name, Iolanthe, I think. So basically her biggest flaw is that she's very tall. And because she's very tall, nobody really wants to marry her. And she comes from like she's like not royalty, but what do you call those people who are lords and ladies? Are they royalty? I think they are. Whatever. Basically, her father is a lord, but a very poor lord. So he basically marries her off to a half-orc, but he doesn't tell her that he's marrying her off to a half-orc, so he can like take his money and whatnot. So when she goes to this half-orc, whose name I have no idea what it is, basically to his keep, right? In his land, she's like very surprised, was like, okay, I can do this, like, you know, because the half-orc guy is very nice and he's very overprotective, and it's like an arranged marriage, and them getting to know each other and like getting into this romantic relationship was a really fun read. Now, I did have like one irksome thing, and this is the thing I have with historical romances, which I hate. I don't like that in historical romances the women are very inexperienced. It might be parts of the times I don't give a shit. I don't like the fact that the male character has to teach her everything, and it's like, oh, this is this part of your body, this is that, you know, this is what it, you know, feels like when you have an orgasm and such. And it's such a, I don't know, I really don't like that part, and it was a bit irksome in this one as well. But I really enjoyed the characters, and there was like a humorous part to it, because our characters had to go through like various orcish traditions, like marriage traditions, and like traditions of the land and whatnot. And so basically they were just like, both of them very frustrated because they couldn't have sex until they were married, because they had to like 3 days of like not festivities, but you know, like different kind of adventures they had to go to prove that they were like worthy of each other. And that was a really fun thing. So those were all of the books that I read in the second half of April. If you want to check out the first half, check out the video down below. If you have read any of the books that I have, please do share your thoughts down below in the comments. Please press the like button if you enjoyed this video. You can subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the description box for various links and such. And what else? And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!